All right, welcome everybody. This is Asim and Rich. My name is Asim, and I'm your host of Asim and Rich Show, Connecting the Dots. Rich.
Welcome everybody. Episode number 3 of Connecting the Dots with Asim and Rich. Excited to be here. It's June 2nd, Asim, and lots going on, but a lot more going on in here. That's what's more important.
I
Right?
hear you. I hear you. I mean, there's a lot of not so good news outside of our workplaces or in the cities across the country, but we'll talk about a lot of that maybe coming in the future shows. But today, I just wanted to share some thoughts um, on myself. Again, I think we've been kicking off. This is our third show. We've been saying that the purpose we started the show. We're doing a lot of this
The record.
off the record or offline rather, and now we brought it online. And the goal here is to share risk, cyber, career, or any related that impact any of the above items to share with you guys, and then hear your thoughts, and as a result, be able to help individuals, help smaller to larger companies, or give it back to the community, whether it's the information that they need on a cyber and protecting their data, or it's about certification somebody wants to have, change a career, etc. We will be doing some training, some live training, some basic live trainings. We did a show number 2. We talked about top 20 certification. We have one of my friend. He's creating. He did an incident response GX cert, so he's creating the steps how you can accomplish that. So we'll bring him on in one of the future shows to talk about it. We have very interesting guests today. Also, he'll talk about about the what's the topic today? Challenging and building a community. Right.
Building community of not sure what cybersecurity specialists.
Yes. So we'll talk about that. We don't want to steal his thunder, so we'll give him opportunity to share. And then I think Brian already joined.
He's backstage.
He's backstage already. Hey, Brian, bring you on in a couple of minutes. I don't know if he can hear. I'll add him to the stream so he could hear, but I'll mute his mic. Hold on, let me bring him on.
There he is, Brian Martinez. Good to meet you.
Brian. How are you? I think Brian, you're ready, or
sure? Yeah.
Minutes. Yeah. So I was actually talking about. We just kicked off the show. So Brian, today's guest is Brian Martinez. He has over 20 years of experience in GRC. He's running a community in Michigan, which is going to talk about, called MISEC. And then Brian and I met in one of the forum last year to develop content around CASSP workshop, right?
Yep.
So we connected there right away when we shared some of our thoughts on doing some of this online or working with the community. So goal here is, again, I think I shared with you on the phone, Brian. So Rich and I, our goal here in the show is to talk about risk, cyber stuff, but I think we're focusing more on small, medium-sized companies. We're talking about people who wants to start their career, change their career, advance their careers, and also help out, wherever we can. And It's about connecting the dots. I think we hear all the siloed information. We know about certification, everything is available, but there's basic things that one can do before they take the cert or start their career or do something. I have a lot of examples that I can share later. But I think we'll give you the floor. I guess you can introduce yourself. What do you do? Your background,
sure,
and your passion about MI6 is really fascinating. So I think people will love it. So go for it.
So first of all, at least on my screen, I like how we got full beard, goatee, mustache. nice selection of facial hair there. So yeah, nice to meet you, Rich. We've never met before.
Yeah, Brian. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm glad to be here. Glad you're on the show. This is show number 3. Just recapping, and I'm gonna bring the energy, Brian.
That's great, man. That's awesome.
Okay, so we had show number 1. We had a guest speaker, and Asim brought in a good buddy of his. I enjoyed that one. I can tell right now that you're going to be another favorite one of my guest speakers.
Very cool.
Yeah. This is part of, I think, the fringe benefit of me doing this show. I get to meet really interesting people in GRC and cybersecurity. I can tell everybody that you're a personable guy. You're kind of a normal guy.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, I'd like to see how long that lasts, because I myself have been in this industry for about 20 years, and after a long time, start to lose it a little bit. I get really opinionated.
Sure.
So happy to hear your opinions and your background, and yeah, man. Tell us.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So like Asim said, I'm Brian Martinez. I've been in Michigan my whole life. I currently live in Lansing, Michigan. Grew up in Flint, though, where the awesome stuff's happening with Sheriff there, by the way. Not to dive too far to
It's quite all right, yeah. There's a lot going on outside, but there's a lot more going on inside the mental. I said there's a lot going on here, so that's what we're gonna try to stay here tonight. All right, no problem.
Yep. So anyway, so yeah, I grew up in Flint, spent some time in Detroit, and then I started as a student at Michigan State University back in '97. Originally, I wanted to be a journalist, but I had an interest in computers, and it was my first year as journalism 101. They had all these guest speakers come in, from local newspapers or news stations, and they'd say, "Well, kids, you guys are gonna be working about 80 hours a week and making about $20,000 a year when you get your degree." And I was like, I'm gonna find something else to do. So even back then, this is back in '97, I had quite an interest in security and privacy. But I was a young guy. I didn't really know where to turn to. I was pretty introverted. Didn't like talking to people. And so, I just did a lot of reading and stuff online. And I got a job working for the university as well. And I'm actually still there. I'm still at Michigan State University.
Okay.
And my first job was just doing basically computer lab support, supporting Windows machines, getting software on there for professors and whatnot. Moved over to the mail side, and that's where I really was able to kind of start, I guess we'll say, dabbling in security. I was there during the rise of phishing attacks, the rise of spam, and I got to see all of that happen, and how not much has, unfortunately, not much has changed since then either.
I thought you meant the mail room.
No. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Email service.
I was serious. All right.
Yeah.
I thought that was the interesting angle with physical security, but go ahead. So email side, phishing and spam. Got it.
Yeah. So I really started to get to kind of dabble in security, working for the email team there, and but we still didn't have a full legitimate security team. We had a couple people that were more dedicated to, I guess, what I call network security, dealing with firewalls and things like that. But we didn't have a full-fledged team at MSU, and I changed jobs again, and it wasn't until around, I think it was 2014, I started working for our internal audit department doing IT audit. Okay. I consider that really my first security job, because we're focused on mitigating risk and understanding what controls are in place or not in place. And it also kind of brought me back in a way to my roots, my journalistic roots, because as an auditor, you have to write a lot. Yep. Have lots of documentation. You got to give a report. You got to kind of be on the show, man. You got to be in front of people and say, this is a problem. This is why. Right.
The 5 W's, right?
Right.
Yeah. Just the fact. Yeah. Who, what, when, whatever. Yeah.
Yep. So,
and just for the record, I started my career also from a technology to when Sarbanes-Oxley came in, and one of my friends was doing a training, and actually for the company I used to work for, they're doing testing of SOX control on the IT side, and they said, this is easy, you could do it. So just executing, remember the old Sarbanes-Oxley, your narrative, a Visio diagram, and the matrix, right? The risk control matrix, and then just doing the testing of the execution. I didn't know how to create tests and all of that. I didn't know any of the internal controls and the whole inside of it. But I knew technology, change management, access management. So
Yep.
so he trained us how to do it. So started doing testing, and then rest is the history. Started doing a lot of that, and then started coming to the dark side slowly. But that's how I started. But that's a great. I think a lot of people started that way. But go ahead.
I'd love to know. Yeah, really, Brian. Like, tell us, like, what was your feel? You were about to say your feel, your take, your views in cyber from that audit lens. I really want to know that. I got into audit in mid-career. But it's a very different level of appreciation because you said you felt it was your first kind of, now I'm responsible and I got to do this. So how'd you feel about it around 2010 then as an auditor?
So as an auditor, I enjoyed what I was doing. It actually took me a little while to get used to being an auditor, right? Like I had never considered that kind of career move. And I was a sysadmin by trade for a number of years, and so when they hired me, they're like, your background actually makes you a really strong auditor. We can teach you the things that you need to know how to audit, right? How to test things and how to write a report, and how to talk to people or not talk to people. Which I had most of that already anyway. But I felt actually kind of frustrated because, as an auditor, you're allowed to really just kind of point out risk.
Sure.
And you're not allowed to make suggestions or get your hands a little dirty and do something about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when. So I was an auditor for about 2 years, shy of 2 years, like 1 year and 11 months, and I got a job for our. By then we had an actual information security team, and we had operations, we had engineering. And then they're kind of forming governance, risk, and compliance, incident response. And they were kind of forming governance, and compliance. And there were already a couple people doing it, but they were still trying to build out that team. And I'll be honest, like everyone's like, well, you're an auditor. That's an easy transition to make. But I didn't. When I interviewed for the job and when I took the job, I didn't really understand governance, risk, and compliance.
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of reading about it. All of the words made sense to me when I'm reading it, right? But I'm just like, I don't know what's expected of me. I don't know what to do. And
so I think that's interesting. Not to sort of interrupt, but that's believe it or not, that is insightful because I think it was kind of made up back in 2010, Brian. So it was just GRC parlance, terminology, but you really weren't receiving much. So as a system admin or as someone who basically connects the dots to actually achieve something correctly, it seemed like a whole lot of what are we doing here? I don't get the point of GRC. I'm really honest with you, especially the first generation.
Yes,
that what was bothering you was basically, I think, just kind of baked into, unfortunately, what the GRC role maybe was about 10 years ago. It's matured a lot more. I'm sure you can speak to that evolution now because now it's got to be hitting, making sense.
Sure.
Yeah. My quick take, 10 seconds maybe on GRC. It is a decision-making tool. If you kind of do it right, like a top-down governance tool, you can figure out key controls and you can figure out where to spend money. That's kind of it. But I think the whole session here is about, we'll community talk GRC, but that's up to you, Asim. But I love that insight. Whereas I was lost in GRC because it made no sense to me. I think that's just what it was. It didn't make sense.
Right.
Yeah, I think we can definitely talk about GRC for hours, and I think you're right, Rich. When they first came in, anybody who could spell SOX got into Sarbanes testing. People didn't know what they were doing, no clue about control, including myself. When I first joined, like I said, I just knew how to do testing, just follow the exact steps. And if there's if they say go to system A and get this data, and the system A name was different, or there was some other different thing that I had to look at, I had no clue. So I think a lot that happened. But I think that's what Steve Jobs said, right? When you look back and look at all those things, that's how everything begins, and that's how you're able to connect the dots. Now, at that point, nobody had an idea, but eventually, now it's mature. It's a full-fledged. I mean, there's a whole GRC yearly conference with thousands of people attend, and there's a whole department in the Fortune 50, Fortune 100 company called GRC. I'm talking about outside of part of the risk management, but the GRC itself, right? We experience that. So I think definitely when we begin our journey in any new career, any new area within this, becomes unknown until you kind of grow into it. But continue your journey. I think is really fascinating.
No, that's totally fine, man. So, so I guess I realize as I'm saying all this, I'm also connecting my own dots, right? And that's the name of the show here. So, when I was, I got to go back a step just for a moment. So when I was an auditor, a colleague of mine at University of Michigan said, "Hey, there's a meetup group called MySec, and I think you'd have a lot of interest in it." And they're starting a Lansing chapter. And I was like, well, I've never heard of MySec before. Apparently, they had existed for a few years at that point, maybe even several years, I guess you could say. And they were out of Southfield, which is close to Detroit, Michigan. And so he goes, yeah, they're starting a Lansing chapter. You should go check it out. And so while I was still an auditor, I did that. I made some good connections with people there. And I really just liked the energy of the folks that were there presenting, and the excitement of the people that were there to listen and to learn. Because I talked to everybody I could after the first meetup that I went to, the first Lansing meetup, and I just really started kind of growing my network there. Instead of just audit, this person does firewalls for an energy company, and this person does incident response. Also for an energy company, it just really okay. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So I'm in GRC now. Fast forward a couple years, I'm in GRC now, and like I said, I'm getting started. I know it's like audit. I know there's stuff about policy and awareness training and stuff like that, but I still just don't understand it. And so one of the people I connected with, who was the chapter director at the time, he kept pushing me. He's like, hey, do you want to do a presentation for MySec Lansing? And I'm like, I don't know. So I'm in the role of GRC for about 2 months, and I decide, you know what? I'm going to do a presentation on what is GRC, because that's actually going to force me to like really learn it, right? So I can go stand in front of people and confidently speak. And let me close my messages here.
No, it's quite all right. Let me add a for a little bit. You mentioned energy. You have some colleagues that were in the energy, let's say, industry. Mm-hmm. That's a unique perspective on cybersecurity, and I don't know if they were ahead of the game or sort of playing catch up. But I think from my experience, when the government basically created the notion of was it the national protection or critical infrastructure, right? When the people, yeah. So it's interesting how maybe energy was heavy on GRC, or there was a market there or opportunities for GRC and energy and financials. Maybe GRC is a good indicator of just maturity. GRC heavy and deep, right? Energy maybe was as well. So do you think that operationally, engineering wise, security controls were robust in energy based on your colleagues and back then till now, what you've heard?
So, I'll be honest, I think I'd have a hard time answering that with any sort of breadth of knowledge, but because I think in some ways, at least some, not necessarily the ones where I know people, but some of the companies are behind in those areas, right?
Yeah.
With regards to operational technology and information technology, but there are others that were certainly, I would say, pioneers at that, where they've really kind of nailed down their control. They're like, hey, this is a problem. Like, we don't want countries attacking our national infrastructure and shutting down the state or our city or whatever the case may be. So I think maybe it's a mixture of, maybe they were ahead of the game, and I think even nowadays still sometimes they're behind. It just depends on, really kind of depends on funding. Like, if it's a private energy company, they're probably well financed. They can pay for all kinds of security controls. But yeah, if it's dependent upon state finances and your state's not doing too well financially, they're probably going to be behind the curve on some things, right?
Okay. So for my sake, though, so because you said I had to give the GRC presentation. That's what I want to know, because I want to hit home on that. So
yeah.
they put that in front of you,
Yeah.
and you were waffling. You weren't sure if you wanted to take the opportunity, right? Okay.
Yeah. Well, so it was me who came up with the topic to talk about. You know, they're like they were looking for a presenter, and I was in regular contact with these folks, and so they're like, hey man, you know all the people, and you seem like a personable person. Why don't you come get in front of people and talk about something? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I can do that. And then finally I decided, you know what? Like I said, I'm going to do a presentation on GRC. I think I even said, do you know what GRC is? And he probably said no. And I said, so do you think probably other people, or do you understand what GRC is I think what I asked him. And he said, no. I said, so probably other people don't either, right? And he said, right. And so I go, all right, well, that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about what GRC is. And so I really had to kind of hammer down, how do I stand in front of people and sound knowledgeable when I don't even right now today even understand what it is, right?
That's what by the way, that's what consultant did for many, many, many years.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I know.
So what does a consultant do, right? They tell you, are you wearing a watch? Yes. Tell me what time it is. They tell them the time, and then they repeat it. That's what consultants do, right?
Yeah.
So that's so
awesome. I gotta play me, and Brian. It's like I play me. This is our podcast, and this is what I do.
Yeah.
I'm 21 minutes into the show, and neither Brian nor Asim, you haven't told me what GRC is.
No, that's true. You're right.
Let us know what this is. All right, so okay, one or the other.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. You also did give a 10-second rundown, which was
that was mine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So GRC, at least where there's some nuances everywhere you go, right? It's a little bit different here and there. Where I'm at specifically, we focus very heavily on risk management. So we do a lot of third-party risk assessment for technology purchases to the tune of hundreds a year, several hundred. And so we use that to help the business make decisions about, should we purchase this product or not. Beyond that, we've created, so that's obviously the risk part. The governance part, you're creating security policy or policy that helps inform IT policy or enterprise architecture type policy. You spell out, these are the kind of minimum set of controls we expect you to have for these types of systems, given whatever type of data you might be processing. If it's public data, if it's confidential data, things like that, right? It's the governance side of things. Also, as part of governance, a bit of compliance, you've got awareness training. So you need people to be aware of your policies. You need them to understand what the policies are. But not only that, you need them to be aware of what the expectations are for them as an employee and their role in security and keeping the company secure, right? And then, of course, you got the compliance side. And where I'm at MSU, we're effectively like a city. And so our compliance is, I can't even name the number of regulatory bodies we have to worry about. We've got our own power plant, so we've got NERC SIP. We've got FERPA data because of students. We've got PCI data, HIPAA data, healthcare data because we've got our own healthcare program. We have a sexual assault program, and there's what's called VACA and VAWA data, violence. I'm trying to remember those acronyms. Violence Against Women Act, that's VAWA.
Okay.
There's just so many areas of regulatory compliance, even just in the IT side, that we have to worry about, that it's a tad overwhelming. Some companies, Asim, you mentioned specifically SOX controls. Yep. Some companies, that's their specific focus, right?
Yep.
We just focus on SOX controls and nothing else. But yeah, we got to worry about it all.
Hey, this is 24 minutes into it, and we totally forgot. Disclaimer, man, you being recorded. It's going on a YouTube.
Yes.
We're supposed to do in the beginning, but
yes,
hey, we know each other. Just have to say it, I saw your show where you say, hey, will you being recorded? If you don't like it, please drop off right now. So I kind of like that disclaimer. We don't need no fancy document to sign. So we just have to share that it's happening now. Rich, I think this is our new way of going disclaimer. We just have to do it maybe a couple of minutes into it.
No
Yeah.
problem. Officially, that was VAWA. I think VAWA, the acronym Violence Against Women Act. VAWA.
There you go. Okay.
Just, keeping it real. Okay. Yeah, not a problem. So this was back in 2010. You gave the first GRC sort of presentation for MySec, but you're also doing it now for University of Michigan.
No. So I'm at Michigan State University.
Okay.
And actually I didn't start GRC until 2016.
Okay.
But anyway, so yeah, I've been doing it a few years now, and yeah, so like I said, I gave a presentation on it, and I'm like, hey, I think I nailed it. I actually was asked as to be a backup speaker at a conference, a local conference in Detroit, and I wound up giving the same talk on GRC, and afterwards, there wasn't too many people in attendance. There was maybe like 20 people in the room. Whereas the other sessions, had like 50, 70, 80, 90 people, right? And so I was like, I know it's not GRC is not a sexy profession, right? Like,
no, I mean, I guess that's true. If you want to be a hacker, if you want to be an operations guy, or,
right? Exactly. So, but I was actually really glad I gave that presentation at the conference because I had about 5 or 6 people come up to me afterwards, and we're still in somewhat regular communication, not once a month, but maybe a couple times a year. And there's always questions about that kind of stuff, and so I really enjoy having these types of conversations. And that's also how I found myself talking to Asim, right? Talking about GRC type stuff. So,
cool.
So that's roughly where we're at.
So what year is this? When I took, because you've been to university for a lot of pretty much all your career, right?
Right.
So I think you can I guess once you catch up to MISEC, I really wanted you to get into it once you're ready. Talk about what MISEC is about and what's your vision and goal, and how is it evolved over the time, and what's the future looking?
Yeah. So we call it just MISEC.
MISEC, okay.
MISEC. But yeah, so they've been in existence. So I'll give a little bit of background because I happened to talk to some of the original folks that started MISEC a few years ago. So the conference that I spoke at was called Converge Detroit, and actually it was they used to do it so that B-Sides Detroit happened right after the Converge conference, and that, come to think of it, that's actually where I spoke, was B-Sides Detroit. So I'm at the speaker dinner, and I was the first one there, and I didn't know where to go or what to do. And I see this guy who was wearing a Converge T-shirt, and I'm like, this guy must know what he's doing. So I ran up and I talked to him, and I said, hey, are you here for the dinner? He goes, yeah. And we get into whatever room for the dinner, and I just started gabbing with him, and he goes, well, I'm the founder of Converge. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. And so, are you guys familiar with the B-Sides structure and what that's about, or no?
But how about let's for the audience? Let's
do it for the audience. So B-Sides is the idea behind it is I guess I could misspeak on this, but my understanding, I guess we'll say, is it's a free conference for sharing ideas about information security, and it allows for networking opportunities and whatnot. Typically, it's always, everyone that I've ever seen has always been on a Saturday. I don't know if that's always the case, but if you go to, I think it's like bsides.org, or it might be b-sides.org. They provide basically a framework for creating this conference, and anyone in any city can create a B-Sides conference. And they just, like I said, they give you a lot of instruction and guidance on how to do your own. And there's no corporate sponsorship, or there shouldn't be. I think there might be some room for exceptions, but basically it's an idea, like I said, it's a conference for sharing ideas with regards to InfoSec. And so they actually had started originally B-Sides Detroit, and that was back around 2009, I want to say 2010, something like that. And they just had a lot of involvement, a lot of people very excited, and they wanted to meet more regularly. They're like, how can we do a B-Sides more often? And so that's how MISEC got started. They're like, let's do a monthly thing here in the Detroit area where we meet for, instead of 8 hours, like a conference, let's meet for an hour. and we'll have a topic every month, and we'll have networking opportunities, and we'll go from there. The B-Sides conference got so big that they ended up forming Converge as a way to kind of actually pay for some of the stuff, right? So they needed to have vendor tables and things like that, and that's what Converge is, and that helps pay for some of the B-Side stuff too.
Okay, yeah.
But like I said, all of that grew into this other conference, and then it also grew into MySec. And so the idea originally was your monthly dose of B-Sides for MySec.
Say that again. I didn't catch that. What's that? You get the
your monthly dose of B-Sides. That was the original catch line for MySec.
MySec, the Michigan-based information security professional consortium group. Yeah, that's just reading from the website.
Yeah.
So, Asim, I'm not sure if we're intentionally, going to basically give shout outs or to some of the conferences Brian mentioned, but Converge is taking place. It took place last month, I believe.
So it didn't happen yet. It's actually going to get rescheduled because of the stay safe, stay home orders.
Okay.
So they canceled the conference for last month, but I think it'll happen again. If I recall correctly, I want to say November, maybe late October.
Okay, and I also see like a related conference here in Michigan area. Is it GERCon X or GERCon?
Yep, GERCon. Yep, that's based out of Grand Rapids, and that's actually the largest InfoSec conference in the Midwest, if I remember correctly. And it's more of a hacker con than like an InfoSec con.
You've been to all three then?
I have. Oh yeah. Yep.
What's your pleasure? What's your poison? I gotta know who you are, Brian. Who you are?
Sure.
Yeah.
So like not I couldn't pick a side, honestly. There's reasons why I like all three of them. B-Sides is nice because it's a lot more personal. It's still a smaller conference that happens on a Saturday, and it's free. Converge is a great conference because it's smaller, and there's lots of professionals there who are interested in learning. Right? They last year they did the 2 days of conferences. For the morning they did like learning sessions, and that was pretty cool, like a 4-hour learning session. So one of the ones that I remember that I sat through was kind of learning about data visualization. So the data science stuff that you've mentioned before, Asim, that you guys are going to be talking about, and using R and things like that. And then, but GERCon is cool just because there's, I'd say there's maybe about 2,000 people there. Maybe it's more than that.
Okay.
They're from all over, and it's just really cool connecting with people and learning about what they do. Go ahead, Asim. Looks like you want to say something.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, so your agenda during these events, right? Like ISACA does, ISC Square, 2-hour, 4-hour session. So you do kind of you have topics that you decide, a sort of awareness training model, like high level, like what do you guys do? Like what is the outcome? Like people want to know, and we'll get into more. We're also interested to do something here. Maybe we can work together in Lehigh Valley or greater New York or greater Lehigh Valley area.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know, I live in Lehigh Valley, which is around Allentown area, Dorney Park.
Yep.
About 100 miles west of New York City. And Dr. Barilla, soon to be Dr. Barilla, is in the border of New York City vicinity, New York, New Jersey border. So tell us, like, what do you do? What is the outcome? What are the benefits? Like some of the 1 or 2 things that people came up to you or you felt, add value in some form or shape, and that how does it help?
Yeah, with MySec, you were saying? Yep. So yeah, we do a monthly meetup, and like you said, the idea behind each meetup. So let me backtrack just a touch. We now have 6 chapters throughout Michigan, and each chapter has its own monthly meetup. Most of the time, it's a separate topic for each chapter, but because of the stay-at-home order, we've actually been kind of teaming up on some things, so it's just easier. So yeah, we have a meetup. The topics can vary from, getting started in InfoSec, getting started with pen testing, getting started with a particular type, like a free firewall, to much more advanced topics like threat intelligence and how do you read through your logs and create rules for your in your SIEM or whatever it is.
Right. Okay.
We've had a few where it's definitely more advanced than I can understand, and I'm like,
Right.
wow, cool. So those ones have a little bit smaller turnout, but because that's usually a more specialized set of knowledge that people want to either learn about or already know about and want to hear what someone else is doing, right?
Yeah.
So the other big thing, other than the educational opportunity, is the networking. To me, I think it's like the best part about this is we're a community statewide, and we have people in our we've got a Slack. We've got people from around the U.S. in our Slack. Not too many, mind you. Most people are Michigan, but we've got folks from all over. And we've got about 150 people that are active every single day. You get to meet some of those people at the MySec meetups. If you don't meet them at the MySec meetup, you can talk to them on Slack. And we just are all about building each other up, educating, and providing opportunities for others to learn more or to maybe even help them find a job, mentorship or whatever the case may be. Go ahead, Rich. What's up?
Well, it's a job, and
Yeah.
I am not maybe the most prolific job seeker, but on occasion I'll take a glance or a gander.
Yeah.
I don't really recall too many jobs in Detroit or in the Michigan area. Could you enlighten us in that market?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually happen to have done some homework on this, not for this talk, but for something else. So I'm going to side by here, and this could actually, maybe even lead to a conversation at some other time, considering we're 36 minutes into this. But this is the sidebar. So again, I'm at Michigan State University. I work there. We do not have a degree granting program in security and cybersecurity, information assurance, or whatever the case may be. We are actually beginning to offer the opportunity through our criminal justice program. They'll have forensic security type stuff that you can study.
Okay.
And that can be a specialty there, but we don't have like a fully fledged degree program. So as part of that, I had to kind of do some homework and meet with the dean and some other folks. And what I learned was, I'm like, well, I need to pitch this to a dean, right? What can I tell them about the importance of this degree and why it's worthwhile?
Okay.
And so this is now I'm getting to the state of Michigan. So I originally found this thing that said Michigan was the #4 employer in the U.S. for tech, in general, right? And then I'm like, okay, well, this is pretty good. But then I'm looking at the article and it says it was dated like 2002. And I'm like, okay, well, it's 2019. Like, maybe we're number 15 now, right? Like so long ago. So it actually turns out that Detroit is the #3 employer in tech now in the whole United States.
Okay.
And it's largely, I think, because of automotive. Right? But so IT is big in Michigan. So with that being said, security, as it's becoming more and more important, week after week, day after day, year after year, right? There's a lot of opportunity for security growth in Michigan. I would say there's definitely less jobs than, say, New York City or somewhere in California or all of California.
Right.
But there's definitely a lot of opportunity, particularly in automotive. Healthcare is big here too, and just other industry here in Michigan. So this quote's a few years old now, but someone that was working out of Symantec in Detroit, specifically Detroit, had once told me that they are experiencing, I think it was like a -6% unemployment rate for their security.
Technology, yeah.
So like they can't find enough people to fill these roles, right? And that's a problem industry wide, of course, right?
Yeah, I saw a number somewhere like -20 or 26. It was a 6 month a year ago. I think.
Right.
I think they were quoting DC demand and the government contracting demand included, because they do a lot of work in this space as well.
Yep.
So yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we have here on the College of Social Science at MSU, it's a certificate in cyber criminology and
There you go.
cybersecurity.
Yep, there you go.
I can say that in your engineering school, as a part of your doctoral program, there is a minor blurb there on expanding information security, network security, and large complex codes. So basically, I'd say cryptography,
Yep, yep, yep.
or even like probably pattern analysis. So yeah, you have a full fledged, and that's always a shout out because I like to talk about that just a little bit. Cybersecurity doesn't really have a home. It wasn't really born out of academia. Cyber came out of, I think, like industry, like actually people using IT and having a bunch of pitfalls with IT systems, and all of a sudden came the cybersecurity sort of industry just came out of that. And there's been I think there's been an effort here by academia to try to put a wrapper or a program around what cybersecurity is. And I've seen a couple of tentacles where it's an extension of systems engineering, could be an extension of, if not system engineering, software development. But good to see that the MSU, if you want to pursue hardcore information or data security, you get the masters of the PhD program. Good to know. Yeah, I'm a bit of a cyber nerd myself, Brian, and I kind of like to know where the knowledge is and where the knowledge gaps are. That's me.
That's good.
Cool. So Asim.
So how do you? Yeah. I was just gonna, maybe we'll get to this to the end. So how do you become a member? Like, how many members? Can you talk about some statistic? I don't know. I didn't really ask you, have you prepared for it, but how many members now are they coming in? What it requires to be a member, and how does one start another chapter in another state? How does that work?
Sure. So, so to become a member, really, one of two ways. You just show up at a meetup, which is completely, and that follows that B-sides format, right? We want to make information free, right? So all of our gatherings are free, or you can join up on our Slack. Like I said, maybe you're in another state, or maybe you're in a city where we don't have a chapter. Join up on our Slack and just start making connections. To join up on our Slack, we've got it's mysec.slack.com, but you have to get like a self invite through mysec.herokuapp.com, and which we Rich will find a link now, and
we'll have your Twitter contact there so people can.
Yep, and of course we're active on Twitter too. Yep, hashtag MySec is what we tag everything with. So really, it's kind of like once you're a member, you're always a member, right? Like, if you join up and found some value, like you don't need to come regularly. If you fall, fade away for a bit and come back, that's fine too, right? You're welcome back, like family. It's like one gigantic family, one gigantic community, right? That's the way we think of ourselves as a community. The other thing that we do, and I'll get to your chapter question in a moment, Asim. The other thing we do is we publish this newsletter. Since we call ourselves MySec, we consider ourselves like Michigan Information Security, right? Okay. And because what we're trying to do is build people up and make ourselves better, as part of our newsletter that we do every month, we promote all of the other Michigan InfoSec gatherings that we can find, at least, right? So we promote the ISACA meetups, we promote the ISC squared meetups, the ISSA meetups. We have an automotive security research group, which is a worldwide group. We include that in our newsletter. InfraGard, I know there's a quarterly meetup. We'll put that in our newsletter. Trying to think what else. DC 313, that's DEF CON Detroit chapter. And I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, there's a couple other.
So this is a public document that you can share later. We can link.
Yep, absolutely. So it right now, unfortunately, it does not have a regular static home. It's mostly me going to Twitter saying, like, here's the link to our newsletter through our mailer. But yeah, we need to get a newsletter section on our webpage.
Okay.
Cool. So yeah, as far as starting a chapter, I'll give you two answers, right? Because you're talking outside of Michigan. In Michigan, we would expect you to be, someone from another area, maybe, or at least being in contact with us with some regularity from another area, and you saying, you really kind of showing some sort of initiative, like, hey, I'm really excited about this. I want to get something going here. I'll say I'll say Sault Ste. Marie. That's very far away from most of mid-Michigan. That's up north in the Upper Peninsula. Let's say someone from Sault Ste. Marie wants to start a chapter. We will encourage that constant contact with them, and really kind of learn about their plans, and all try to get on the same page about our philosophies and whatnot. And then we'd say, all right, let's give it a trial and see how it goes, and we'll help promote you and all that kind of stuff as much as we can. And so that's how you would do it in Michigan. Outside of Michigan, I know you're interested in starting something similar.
Yep.
Talked about that, you and I. Honestly, I would say it's kind of a somewhat similar thing. You're free to do your own thing. Like, we don't own this, right?
Right.
So you're free to do your own thing, but we'd be happy to consult with you. I'd be happy to talk with you with regularity. There's other folks I get you in contact with as well. One of my colleagues in my sec, I know, kind of mentors some folks in Texas. He's telling me, and then somewhere there's another state too. I don't remember where. To do a similar type thing, right? Like, it's not like sec or anything like that, but just getting a group together with regularity and talking about security. Interestingly, out in PA, the original Lansing director, the guy who started the Lansing chapter, lives out. I think he's actually maybe about an hour away from you, but he's also in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I remember you and I kind of gabbed about that for a moment last year, just for a moment. But I should get you guys in touch, and maybe you guys do something.
Absolutely, would like to learn what he's doing, and probably Harrisburg side. If he said hour or Philly, could be Philly, but we'll
maybe I don't remember exactly where he is.
Okay, sure.
But
yeah, yeah. So I think it's great. I think people. I think you provide a lot of good insight around. Obviously, we talked about your career, MISEC. What are they doing and how you're helping? I think we have a similar. I think we talked a little bit on the phone. We have a similar approach. We're taking a little bit of a podcast online. YouTuber approach,
right?
But we're making it not so formal, as you can probably tell. We're just going, and this thing will evolve over the time. But I tell you, we'll have shows with guests, without guests. We'll do a bit of training, high levels, maybe some even hardcore cryptography or in-depth, high technology. If Rich would like to do those, right? So we'll do some of that, hardcore trainings as well, and then. We would also going to have some career coaches. I have one guy reach out to me last week. I provided some insight. I think once he goes through this whole momentum, his career change or whatever, all the benefits that he came up with, I think he would like to come. I would want him to come and share, and people will hear. So these are real people. This is how they had. This is the question or the issue they had. How did we were able to help them? And how it can help so many other people. Because it's a simple question. What do I do? I want this cert. How much experience? I think those simple things that people need answer to. And then the most importantly, they need some encouragement. I think they just want, hey, you can do this. They want somebody to hear out and say you can do it. I think that'll be great. And then we also want to bring in a recurrent guest, right? I see definitely you coming back and provide your insight. Maybe we'll do some panel.
We have to do lightning round. If you get through the lightning round, we will consider you.
all right, that's fair.
Do you want to do lightning round?
I have no clue what this is. This is, like I said, it's happening now. Lightning round. Go for it.
I got 5 questions, 5 seconds each. I'm going to ask them really quickly. At the end of the question, we'll do the 5 seconds. You give me your best answer. If it sounds good, Asim, you be the judge, okay? So at the end of the question, 5 questions. I'm gonna set the timer, and then we're gonna keep going. We're having fun, Brian. So expense. Here we go. All right. So what's the difference between an audit issue and an audit finding?
Oh gosh.
Audit finding.
Audit finding is
that's wrong.
yeah, like how can I answer that in 5 seconds? Oh my gosh.
Hey, this is not fair, Rich. It's so complicated. This is I thought it would be easy questions like what day is today or whatever.
This is like, all right, we're going to go 10 seconds. We'll do 10 seconds. Okay, here we go. What's the best GRC tool you've ever used?
My brain.
Not bad. No, that's a good answer. Okay, good. Would you rather have a low probability, high impact event or a high probability, low impact event? Would you rather have a low probability, high impact event or a high probability, low impact event?
I'd rather have a low impact, high probability.
You rather have a low, is that a good answer, Asim?
I don't know. Depends what your industry is, man. Listen, I'm not. It really depends. What your scenario is. What you in the business? Are you in electricity company or you're like a Facebook, right? So it depends.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You're stranded on a boat with an auditor, a compliance analyst, and a risk manager. You have 3 lifesavers. Who do you save?
I save the risk manager.
You say the risk manager. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'll take that answer. I like that answer a lot.
I'm a risk manager, so I'm safe. All right.
Risk, compliance, audit, but that's very judgmental. I actually think that there might be this hierarchy. We have an unspoken hierarchy where you might consider risk, compliance, and auditor, but that's a very prejudicial thing to say. Interesting. Okay, last one, and you're being a great sport, Brian. This is an easy. You have $1 million grant for MSU. What would you like to buy? Yeah, what would you buy with $1 million? MSU says do something with it.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't even begin to answer that.
Dude.
Everything that I can.
You're pretty good. I think
Yeah, good job.
2 out of 5 is not bad, but hey, the best answer was pocket it, but
Okay.
We appreciate that. That was the first iteration of the lightning round.
All right.
Pretty well. Thank you for that, Brian. But
I think so.
yeah.
I think. All right. Yeah, I think. Thank you, Richard. This is what I had no clue, man. This is a informal, a great attempt. I think we'll definitely make this permanent part of the show going forward. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
And I think we had a lot of fun. I think we talked about a lot of things. Any final words? I think we'll be in touch. What I want to say, we'll definitely be in touch. Rich and I will talk about. So I was going to say, so your recurring guests, actually, let me just finish that thought right before the lightning round.
All right.
So we have recurring guests. We'll have some panels in the future, right? Especially what's happening now. I think we need to highlight and talk about that. We just didn't want to do it in siloed. I think everybody's doing. I think it's fair to bring in a couple of more people and have a panel discussion, have different views from different background or shared experience. And then finally, we talk about creating a community, a group, a forum. I don't know what it looked like. I have to do a little bit more research or what is the best way or talk to my mentors. But really something where we can be all part of. Will there be 10 to 15 permanent member? We can come up with some yearly articles or some sort of writing opinion where we don't have to, one person doesn't have to put all the time and work and effort. And it's like a joint effort from different background. And I think this is Rich. You brought that up. Is this real your idea? So if you want to say something, I think this will really help add some value, not only to the individual but really the companies out there.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think that the best thing we're going to do that's going to come out of the podcast, actually, Brian, is that community. We want it was collective authorship. I find that, unfortunately, the older we get, the older I get. I struggle to force myself to write. And I think our first guest mentioned that sort of the state of the art of security is actually collective knowledge related to information sharing. So sort of the best ideas and the best controls in security and should be in a sort of a collective way. And I think we're going to pursue this as Asim. I think we're going to basically keep inviting guests. We're going to have larger and larger pools. We might have like 5-6 guests, and we're going to do as not a workshop, like a collective publication, hopefully put our all ideas together. And just so you know, Brian, I'm a big fan of risk management. I've done operations engineering, architecture, but I keep going back to risk. I enjoy it the most. So despite maybe my feelings on my joke feelings on auditors and compliance, risk is where it's at. Risk is where information security programs in most organizations, if they really do have a robust and a risk management program that makes sense and actually makes decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that a lot from a career perspective. It's still very untapped. It's still very immature. So I would welcome you back to the show and we can actually further explore that and think about publishing something together. So
that's great. That sounds very exciting.
Cool.
Any last few words before we end the show?
So yeah, I just there's something I meant to mention in building community and talking about that, which is and you guys are already really kind of, even if you turn out, you're really already kind of nailing it. Consistency is huge, right? So having things at either the same time or the same date, and the format, right? Like your shows are reaching about an hour roughly. Like always, try to strive for that, right? You kind of set the mark as that's what people are going to expect. If you want to an hour and a half or 2 hours, people are going to be like, oh gosh, hour-long shows, right? And if you had started at a half an hour, you kind of hamstring yourself into that a little bit too, right? So, but consistency, both in your timing and expectations, and the format that you follow, and outreach to folks, which obviously I know you guys are already doing. I'm talking to you today, right? But people, you want to get those people that are interested in building that community. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you, Brian. We'll be in touch. I'll be in touch. We'll chat more and we'll talk
Sounds
more.
Great.
Good fun. Thanks for coming on, Brian. It's great meeting you, man.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Stay safe. Okay.
Yep, you too. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
We're wrapping. I seen that was show number 3.
Yeah. I think. Let me just do this right. So I think we had a great show again. You did it again with that. The last, what is it called? Rapid round or whatever you call it? Lightning round. Yeah, I loved it. I think your question was really not so easy or in a 5-second one, but I think definitely, as you can tell, Brian is very passionate. He works hard. He's taking the time from his family, giving us an hour in the evening. Yeah. I think we continue to build, like he said, we continue to build, bring in these guests, build the community, and then maybe after 10, 15, 20 show, we'll have an idea about that, the forum we're talking about, right? And then we'll definitely go from there. I think next show we'll talk a little bit about some of the things what we want to do as far as chapter. I have some of the things that I was thinking, and I'll share that with you off the record, and then we'll share with our audience. Okay. By the way, we had one audience. I don't know if it was my daughter or it was actually somebody from outside the family, but
I saw one. We did have a live here. Good stuff.
But I gotta say this one thing: we're not advertising. We're not sharing this with anybody yet. The goal is to build more of these, and then we'll come back to that.
That's fantastic. I really enjoyed Brian's. Got to come back. I love Maurice in the first show. This collective is going to keep growing. I'm really enjoying it. So thanks again to you, Asim.
All right. Take care, man. And this ends our show today.
All right. Okay.